Good morning, everyone.
Good morning,
Good morning, Rabbi.
We are learning Mishnayos Erevin, Parak Zayin, Chapter 7, Mishnah Gimel, Mishnah 3. Okay, so yesterday we spoke about a wall dividing between two courtyards. Now we're going to have an interesting type of wall. Charitz shebein shtei chatzeros. If you have a ditch between two courtyards. See that? You got the two courtyards and you got a ditch in between.
Full of water?
Nope. Amak Asara, that has a depth of 10 tfachim. It's 10 tfachim deep. V'rachav arba, and it's 4 tfachim wide. Ma'arvin shnayim. They can make 2 erivs, meaning each courtyard makes a separate eriv. Ve'marvin echad, but they can't make one. This ditch separates the courtyards. It's like having a wall in between. And instead of the wall being on top, the wall's on the bottom. The ditch is 10 tfachim deep. That's the height of a wall. Now, typically, we said previously that for a wall to divide, you don't need the wall to have any kind of width or thickness. Just has to have a height. Height of 10 tfachim is enough to divide. But here, by the ditch, it has to have also a width of 4 tfachim. And
the depth of...
Well, depth is 10.
Yeah.
Depth is 10, because that's like the height of the wall, right? Depth of 10, and a width of 4 by 4. The reason is because if it's going to be less than 4 wide, you can step right over it. So it's not a separation. Meaning it's got to have the, so to speak, dimensions of a wall, but in this kind, when you want it to separate, it's got to separate. And if it's going to be too narrow, there's no big deal to step over it, and therefore it's not a separation. You can't call it a separation anymore. So therefore, in this case, what's going to do the separating has to have the height of a wall. It's got to be considered like a wall, but it's also got to be considered a separation, and therefore it needs a width of 4 tfachim wide. Now, afilu male kash oiteven, even if the ditch is filled with straw or stubble, meaning you threw a bunch of straw in it, and that's filling it up. Well, if it's filling it up, do I still have I don't have a ditch here anymore, right? The answer is I do. Because if he's filling it up, let's say with straw, then he's just storing it there temporarily, eventually to give it to his animals. So if you're filling it up with something that you're not planning on leaving there, then it's not like I filled it up. The ditch is still there, and it can still act as a separation. Malay offer itzroiris. Let's say you fill it with dirt or rocks, and you're planning on, and dirt or rocks is something that you leave there. Ma'arvin echad vein marvin shnayim. Then the Erev has to be made. Then they can make one Erev together, but they can't make 2, because if there's no ditch in between, there's no separation. We see it as one big chutzner. If it's one big chutzner, they all together have to make an Erev chatzeres. But that's the difference between the straw and between the dirt or the rocks. One you're not planning on leaving there. One you are planning on leaving there. Once you're planning on leaving it there, I filled in the ditch. There's no ditch there anymore. There's no separation anymore. They're one chutzner, they need one Erev. Now, if let's say the person says, I'm filling it up with dirt, but I'm planning on taking it away, I'm not planning on leaving it there, I'm just temporarily leaving it there, then it's the same thing as a straw. Yeah. It's all up to the person who has the control over the situation. If he is temporarily putting rocks there or dirt, and he tells us it's temporary, then the ditch is, then it's just like the ditch is still there, and it's still separating. And they can make, and they're going to make 2 chatzeres then, because they have a separation. They can't make one. The same thing holds true if, let's say, you don't fill it up all the way. Let's say you fill it up 5 tvachim, but there's still 5 tvachim left. Or you fill it up in a way that there's not 4 tvachim wide. Once I don't have the dimensions of 10 deep and 4 wide, I don't have a separation anymore. So I don't have to fill the whole thing up. I just have to minimize the shear. I just have to minimize the size, either in the height, in the depth, or in the width.
Either one.
Either one.
They have to be the same material.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
So what if you have some